Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybylo here from the SoonerScoop.com studios on Campus Corner. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. And they did it. They got a win in the SEC. Oklahoma, welcome back to the Hoops Report, by the way. Oklahoma did win over the weekend, 82-62. Before we get into a little bit of the South Carolina, let's kind of talk about the last week, really. Obviously had the big disappointment against Texas, a unbelievable comeback. Jalen Moore with 29 points, 25 coming in the second half. But it was just kind of the unexplainable first half and the beginning of the second half that just really dug them a hole.
It did. It's like, how do you come out flat when you've already got a 3-game losing streak? Now you're coming home. You're playing your rival. And that first half, they were just sleepwalking. I mean, I know it was a 9 o'clock tip. I get it.
It was late for everybody but the players, right? It was yes. Late for Texas as well. And for Jalen Moore to come in and talk about Jim coming out lackadaisical, my mouth was agape. I was completely blown away that he even said that.
It took me back. We're going in the way back machine here when Amani Bledsoe said that about OU Texas football.
Right.
That one. I was like, what? Like, fans can't comprehend how you're playing your rival and you're not ready to go like hours before it tips off. And like, yet alone as the game's actually going on, you're still trying to work up the energy. So the fans, they left in droves, 43-27 at halftime.
Don't blame them.
Can't imagine what it was like at 51-28, 53-30. And then Dayton Forsythe, the bench, reignited everything that still seems like it's having a carryover effect going into this week.
They did find something, and when they were down by 23, I think there was a lot of dark thoughts seeping into Oklahoma basketball fans' minds. They come up short. Obviously, it was kind of a little bit of a conversation of what we've seen over the last 3 years. You get it all the way to 3, then you don't get a shot on 2 consecutive possessions when you're in the game. So you stomach that loss, right? 70, I can't even remember. 77, 73, right? You end up losing by 4. You bounce back against South Carolina, which was a good performance overall. I mean, you had the 4-point lead at halftime, you used a 15-0 run in the second half, and a lot of what we've seen here over the last couple weeks came to fruition. You get some bench help. Kobe Elvis coming in off the bench, which I know that we're going to talk about here in a second. And, Jalen Moore had a really good game as well, 22 points, 8 rebounds. Yeah,
and you can see Jalen Moore understands what his role needs to be now. I think maybe he's a little too passive. We've mentioned that multiple times, how he just kind of picks the spots, kind of lets the game come to him. He's a senior. If this team's going to make a real run and get to the tournament, it's going to be because Moore has been able to put him on his back and do what he's got to do. And we mentioned the second half against Texas. That carried over again to Saturday against the Gamecocks. Just so much more assertive, so much like, I'm getting to the hole, you're not going to stop me. And when he plays like that, something, again, it's infectious. It becomes the rest of the team starts playing like that. And obviously the shout out Jeremiah Fears, the mental toughness that we questioned, that we knew. It's like, if this team's going to do anything, also, it's not an either or. It can't be more or Fears. It's more and Fears has shown up the last 2 games.
I think those deep thoughts or dark thoughts returned when South Carolina takes a lead, 42-38. They get it back out to a 5-point lead at 59-54, and that's when the 15-0 run really kind of cemented themselves en route to a 20-point victory.
Yeah, now a lot of that was Fears. You look up, all of a sudden, it's 16 points, it's 9 rebounds, 8 assists, couple steals, the 9 rebounds, 8 assists, both career highs for him. And maybe more importantly, 2 turnovers. After a 6-turnover game against the Horns, which once again is another wait a minute, Duke Miles and Jeremiah Fears cannot handle the ball. What is going on here? Then you have 11 in the first half against South Carolina, and you think the wheels are about to just completely fall off. Just 1 in the second half, just a great final 20 minutes that you hope they can use through, that's given them confidence throughout the course of this entire week.
18 turnovers against Texas, went to 30 Texas points off of turnovers. And like you said, it's amazing what happens in the sport of college basketball, or just maybe basketball in general, when you just have the 1 turnover. And Duke Miles had 6 against Texas, bounces back a little bit against South Carolina. What do we make of this rotation so far? Because now you're starting to see a little bit more of Dayton Forsythe, Kobe Elvis coming in off the bench, and he had the 4 threes. I don't think he particularly likes coming in off the bench, but as we'll hear from Porter Moser in a second, those minutes are going to be needed in the backcourt.
He is going through the Waldo Suarez moment of accepting you've been a starter most of your career and now you're coming off the bench. And it makes a lot of sense. They do need to be bigger. We mentioned that before. What was going to give? Were other teams going to have to bend to OU's three-guard lineup and the speed that they had? Or was OU going to have to say, we need some sort of size?
Sure.
We don't have a lot, but let's see what else we can do. And that's exactly what Porter has done. And now he's using the term starting 7. He's adding Glenn Taylor in there. Mo Wagee could be added. Dayton Forsythe, obviously, is the story of the last week. His 10 minutes against Texas was all about energy. His 13 against South Carolina was more about production.
Sure.
The 5 points, a couple of rebounds, the really nice assist, the fears out transition. He can do that. Little spurts of energy here, and there. OU's has found something that maybe it didn't know it had when conference play started.
I don't think that subs is a negative connotation, but Porter Moser did talk about it on Saturday after the game about his second unit.
I thought he produced. I thought he came in, and it gives you a chance to. When you bring in off Duke or Fears, you got another chance to him coming in and get another primary ball handler in there. Because sometimes when we started them, not to say I won't do it again, but you got 3 ball handlers in there and 2 of them don't have it. And I just think the rotations are better. We start bigger. It's really been hard starting, bigger. So we'll see. And the thing that you heard me say it a lot last year, and I'm creating that narrative again this year. To Glenn and Kobe and. We got 7 starters. Those guys have started a lot of games in college basketball. It's a shift. I almost want to use that word. It's your shift, not you're a sub. Some people say, I don't know why people think the word sub is bad, all right, but it's not. It is. It's part of basketball. But so I'm trying to say your shift. Your shift, just second shift. And some people ask me about Mo coming off the bench. I'm like, man, if Mo comes into the 35-minute mark, now he has 35 minutes to get 5 fouls. It's a math equation.
A little bit of a light moment for Porter Moser.
Finally. Compare to Wednesday night.
The spirits are a little bit better in a post-game setting when you do win a basketball game, as they did on Saturday. You wrote about it on SoonerScoop.com. The injection of energy, whatever it has been here over the last 2 games, something clicked when Dayton Forsythe entered the game last week against Texas, kind of spurred that second half comeback. And once again on Saturday, you saw Dayton Forsythe, and he's getting a little bit more in production. Yeah,
it was 51-28, and Porter just maybe throwing his hands up, saying, I've got nothing else to lose. Let's see if Dayton's got anything to bring me tonight. And when he did, that rallied the troops. It made people like Kobe, Jalen's like, wait a minute, why am I not playing as hard as this guy is? Why is this freshman showing us exactly how we should be playing every single second that we're out there? And he's carried that over to Saturday. But it was important for him to be productive too, because energy is nice and all, but you can't play 10, 15 minutes and just, not have any stats, not bring anything tangible to what you've been able to do. So when he made the 3-pointer, when he's trying to get contested boards, like, this is someone who understands whatever little thing needs to be done, I'm willing to go and try to do it.
Porter Moser, as well as Dayton Forsythe, made his first appearance inside the post-game room on Saturday. Here they are talking about just the X factor that has become Dale's own Dayton Forsythe.
I think they all know Dayton's energy. Last game he brought us energy, but for him to knock that down, it was just like it's fun to see him how excited they are for him because how hard he plays. Our bench had 6 threes. Dayton had 1, Kobe had 4, and then Luke Norweather came in and got it. So everybody contributed when we needed it. And it was just better winning basketball in the second half of taking care of it.
I feel like it's our job to come in and bring energy, play super hard, and let the chips fall where they may. It happened today. We both hit big shots, but tomorrow it could be 2 different people. So just doing whatever we can to help the team is my mentality.
10 minutes against Texas. He had the 13 minutes, his most in SEC play against South Carolina, about 11 and a half minutes a game. But it has been fun to see him get an opportunity and kind of run with it here.
Yeah, and now we'll get the real test of seeing, is he one of those role players that only fares well at home, or can he
Very
bring
much
it
so.
on the road?
Very
we
much.
know it's something Eddie loves to talk about a lot.
It happens a lot.
It happens at the next level. So, of course, it
100%.
happens in college. When they go to Fayetteville Saturday night and Dayton gets put in for that first spurt there, probably midway through the first half, will he have the same type of production, or will it kind of fall off? So I'm very intrigued to see what he's able to do, because what a huge shot in the arm it would be if he brings the same type of intensity and production from Lloyd Noble when they go on the road, and then that's another guy that you can trust going down the stretch.
Perhaps Arkansas is going to be without, or I think they will be without Boogie Fland. He is going to miss the rest of the season. John Rothstein reported that on Tuesday morning, averaging 15.1 a game for the Razorbacks, who also are winless along with South Carolina. We'll see if that changes on Tuesday night. Georgia headed to Fayetteville before Oklahoma goes out there, as you said, on Saturday. The next two, if you're looking for any breaths of fresh air, you're not going to find it on the SEC schedule. Oklahoma goes to Arkansas on Saturday, and then a return trip to College Station on next Tuesday. It's going to be tough. Where are you here as they do log their first win? Is this a situation? Did they just find a team that was worse than they are in South Carolina? Or are there some positive moments that you can maybe make here over, let's say, the last three halves? We'll throw out the first half against Texas.
Man, that first half against South Carolina, isn't that what you thought? Is like, these are the two worst
These
teams.
are bad. It was bad basketball.
They've combined for 23 turnovers, and now we know why both were 0-4.
No
so
doubt.
at least that second half, you saw the signs. Like, yeah, remember, this is a team that beat Michigan, that beat Arizona. Remember, they've got the 3 quad 1 wins in the non-conference. They can try to make some things happen, but we'll see what Arkansas does tonight against Georgia. How different they look. How do they, react, bounce back? Now that Boogie is not going to be with them, because that was someone sort of circling like Boogie's going to be a problem.
In a very down year, he was a bright spot for Arkansas and John Calipari.
Absolutely. So do they, figure it out tonight, or are they 0-6 going into the OU game, and then desperation with a capital D in terms of what Arkansas would be trying to bring to the table? But I still think this is another must win. I think 7-11, we've said if it's the right 7, you're in. But 8-10 and you're a lock.
Sure.
You're 21-10 going into conference tournament. And if you want to find a way to get to 8 when you start off 0-4, you got to go 8-6. You've got to get this one Saturday night.
No doubt. And it seems like it's going to be very gettable, especially without Boogie for Arkansas. We'll see if they can log a win on Tuesday night. But, you got to beat the teams, especially on the schedule, that are ahead of you, or I guess below you in the standings, if you will. So,
and you've got to get a road win since you've dropped serve at home twice.
Right.
Since you've already lost 2 at home, you've got to figure out a way to try to get back to even. This is the most winnable road game, it looks like, on the entire schedule. We'll see if injuries start happening going down the road. But this is winnable. They've got to be able to attack it. Use this week to recharge the batteries. We'll see what adjustments they make. Obviously, they're feeling good coming off of Saturday. Porter knows, okay, I've got a lot of depth, but when do I need to go with this guy here, that guy there? All about putting the pieces in the right place at the right time.
Maybe a little bit more sense of urgency, too, from Jalen Moore. You saw the 25 in the second half against Texas, the 29 to lead Oklahoma, 22 against South Carolina. But I guess, is it as simple to say, and I know that George is going to say this here in a second when we bring him and talk about women's, it might just revolve around Jeremiah Fears and what he's going to give you. If he can continue to take steps, develop, be somebody that you can count on in that Oklahoma backcourt, him and Jalen Moore, a nice little 1-2 punch.
Absolutely, but you need both.
Sure.
Kind of like we said, it can't be or. You got to have both of them on every single game to try to be competitive, to try to win some games. But you appreciate the way Fears bounced back. I think we all assumed he would. Again, because of the pedigree, because of the background with the Fears family. He's been around this a long time. In Michigan State, Jeremy, they're doing okay. Like, he knows he's got a support system he can, fall back on. And the way he showed up in the, against Texas and against South Carolina, very encouraging sign. Now you've got to get Duke Miles going. He's averaging just 8 points in conference play. The 6 turnovers he had against Texas, and he was the one 71-68.
Sure.
It's Duke Miles that's driving too far into the lane like they did against the Aggies, having it stripped. So you need him to kind of understand this is the SEC grind. You're not at high point. I don't want to be condescending, but it's like you need to raise your level that what we think you can play. You do that, we're going to be a tournament team.
Had his head down, just got lost, it seemed like, in the lane there. And full disclosure, in the spirit of transparency, hand up. I think I just put 2 and 2 together, Jeremiah and Jeremy Fears at Michigan State. I'm an idiot. All right, that's Bob Przybylo. We'll now catch up with George Stoia talking about the OU women. We now welcome in George Stoia for his portion of the Hoops Report. OU women, they did get a win. We could start there, or we could start with South Carolina. Either or.
Let's get South Carolina out of the way.
There's not a whole lot to talk about the trip to Columbia, South Carolina on Sunday. Oklahoma, 101-60 on the low side of that scoreboard. A season low, 35.8% from the field. South Carolina shot 48%. You dig a hole in the first quarter, 28-9. By the time I tuned in, they were down by double digits, and it seemed to get progressively worse throughout the afternoon. Reagan Beers did play 23 points, 8 rebounds. That was a positive. 17th time she's been in double figures this season for Oklahoma. Skylar Vann in double figures for the first time this season in conference play with 13 points. But all in all, it was a pretty drastic difference in what Oklahoma basketball is, or what they want to be, and what South Carolina currently is, a dynasty.
Yeah, which, there's no shame in that. Look, what South Carolina's
It's going to happen to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Look, in women's college basketball, I would say right now there's probably about, 3, 4, 5 teams that can actually win the national title. South Carolina is obviously one of them, and I know they're not the number 1 ranked team in the country right now. UCLA, who's undefeated, is number 1, and they're more than deserving. I think South Carolina's the best team in women's college basketball. I mean, they're unbelievable. The athletes they have, the talent they have. Now, losing by 41 is never a good thing. I think, I thought it would be a little bit closer than that. I thought they'd maybe be able to hang around for a little bit. But, when Peyton Verhulst, she only scores, I think, 3 points in the game, 1 for 6 from the field. Sahara Williams, 0 for 8. You're not going to win a lot of basketball games if you're Oklahoma. Reagan Beers played great. She was really the only one that Skylar Vann, like you said, she played well too. But other than that, they just didn't get help from anybody else, which is crazy because, Peyton Verhulst scores a career high 38 against Missouri, a few days before. And then all of a sudden turns around and just kind of has a clunker. And I said on here, this team goes, what you're going to get from Reagan Beers, but this team typically goes as Peyton Verhulst goes, and they just got nothing from her.
Now, the good news was Reagan Beers did play in the game.
Yep.
She had the 23 points, and that's coming off of just a 10-minute showing against Missouri, a game that you were at down at the Lloyd Noble Center last week. Really, really good, 80-63 over Missouri. And as you said, Peyton Verhulst was unbelievable. 38 points, career high, 6 threes in the game, outscored Missouri in the third quarter, 20-15. 18, I believe, in the first 5 minutes of the third quarter. Really nice performance for Oklahoma to get to, I guess at the time, 3-2 in conference play. Now 3-3 with the South Carolina game.
Yeah, beating Missouri. That's a team that they should beat. They're not. Missouri's not a great team. They're just an okay team. So you got to win your games at home. I know you and Bob, I'm sure, have talked a lot about that. About the men's, and the women have so far pretty much taken care of business in just about every game. The Texas game at home, obviously, you hate to lose that one, but Texas is one of those teams that could probably win the national title. So
absolutely. Did you see what they did against Maryland on Monday?
An ass kicking.
It was an ass whooping.
And so it's no shame in that, but you look at Oklahoma's schedule. And those are the games you just have to win those. If you want to end up hosting a regional, the first couple rounds of the NCAA tournament, you have to win those games, and you're going to have to eventually maybe win some of these ranked conference games. And opportunity, they got Georgia this weekend, which they should win that game, and then they turn around and go at LSU, and they have Kentucky at home. LSU, they're ranked 5th in the country right now. Kentucky 11th. Kentucky's at home. You got to win one of those two. I don't think they're going to go on the road and beat LSU and Kim Mulkey, as much as a lot of people out there would probably enjoy that. But I do think they can beat Kentucky. I think that's a game that's going to be very close. And then after that, Eddie, they kind of have a stretch of games that really they should rack up a ton of wins.
Very good. I am very excited to see what Kim Mulkey wears the
Yeah.
night of the OU.
Did you see the one with the
LSU
net?
game. Yes, I need that. I want to
awesome.
wear one of those to a Thunder playoff game at some point this year. So, all in all, 15-4 overall,
Yep.
3-3 in the conference. It seems, as you said, there's going to be some opportunities here moving forward with the schedule when it gets quote unquote SEC softer, I guess. It's probably still extremely tough, but everything's still in line for hosting that type of stuff come March.
You know, they're ranked 15th right now. It's the
Okay.
top 16 teams that host. So, and I don't know if the NCAA still does where they kind of release it, kind of like the college football playoff where they release it a little early. I think that's coming up here in the next
I think
month or
that
so.
they probably should, starting in, I would say, beginning of February,
yeah.
mid-February, here in the next 2 weeks.
I would say they're right on that line, and that's what I mean when you look at their schedule and you've got two big ones coming up in LSU and Kentucky. You finish the season against Alabama, who is a ranked opponent, but other than that, you don't have a ton. So you got to win those games that you should win, right? You should win all the non-ranked games, and then if you can beat a Kentucky or beat an Alabama, if you can somehow go on the road and beat LSU, then yeah, you're going to probably secure yourself a spot in hosting. So their non-con is still really strong. I think that they are pretty high in the net rankings right now. So they've got a good chance, but they have to take care of business. And getting blown out by South Carolina sucks, but I'm interested to see how this team responds. They have a whole week to sit on it.
Just like the men, kind of ironic, I guess, or maybe I don't even know if it was planned that Oklahoma men and women both have the week off before Saturday and Sunday games.
Yep.
Just kind of unique for the scheduling.
Yeah, it's almost like a bye week in football. So they got a whole week to stew on it. I'm sure Jenny Baranchek's getting after him in practice. We'll talk to her on Thursday to just get an update on where things are. I'm sure it sounds like Reagan Beers is fine now after playing as much as she did.
I was going to
against
say
South Carolina.
that's the biggest story
Yeah.
coming out of that A&M game. You didn't know how the shoulder injury or how long it was going to affect her, and she got through the 10 minutes against Missouri, and then obviously played against South Carolina. You would think here with the long layoff of over the course of the week, she should be close. I don't want to say 100%, but as close as she possibly could be going into the game Sunday.
Yeah, and she looked great against South Carolina. It didn't look like she was laboring at all. I would also add Liz Scott, who got hit in the face against Missouri and missed, I think, almost the whole second half. She did play against South Carolina as well, I think like 13 minutes. So I think she'll be fine moving forward. So they're pretty healthy. You get a week off. I'm sure practice this week has been pretty intense after that type of a loss with Jenny Baranchek. But you get a game in Georgia that you should win, and then you turn around with two big games at LSU and then Kentucky at home. If you can split those, I think you're feeling pretty good about yourself if you're Oklahoma.
I know that we've had Jenny on before. She's come in studio before, and then we've also had her on radio. And I think she loves the idea of just having to practice this week with no games.
100%.
She loves living in the practice gym.
I mean, they were just flat out and I think Jenny would agree with this. They were just flat out terrible on Sunday against South Carolina, and
they were terrible, and it probably had a lot to do with what South Carolina.
South Carolina is really, really good. I still don't think it's acceptable to lose by 41 to South Carolina.
Sure. The Peyton Verhulst game, by the way, 5th all time, tying Felicia Whaley.
Can you tell me who's all time?
Maddie Williams, 47 points against West Virginia. Come on.
I thought it was against Oral Roberts.
I thought it was West Virginia, but
somebody
definitely
will
could
correct
be wrong
us
about that.
You
idiot!
Yeah.
Sorry. I got the name right.
Courtney Parrish is second and third, I believe, and she had 45 and 44, I think, in the same season.
Damn.
Yeah. She was unbelievable.
It's like 20 years ago now that they were playing here. Date myself. All right, very good. That is your OU basketball hoops report here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Thank you to Bob Przybylo. Thank you to the great George Stoia. And as, of course, we'll be continuing to monitor day 2 of OU defensive coordinator watch, if you will. We'll jump back on here if there is something that comes to fruition for that. So for Bob, George, I'm Eddie. We'll see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.